Welcome to Hot Hero Sandwich with Pam Dawber, Mrs. Martin Luther King, Jimmy McNichol, and Christopher Reeve. In conversation with Tom Cottle.
Growing up, did you have any people that you considered heroes?
Joe in Little Women, I thought was terrific.
My greatest heroes were Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer.
Paul Newman,
Wilt Chamberlain,
Eastwood,
Jackie Robinson, Joe Louis.
Thought Superman was a good movie, but he's everybody's hero, right?
What is super about Superman? It has nothing to do with power, has nothing to do with flying, has nothing to do with faster than locomotive. It has to do with the fact he is a super person, meaning that he is a decent person. And what it means is, it is not square, it is not Dullsville to be honest, or to be decent, or to say, I love you, or to say, I'm here to help.
I never had make-believe friends or anything like that. I acted out a lot of things. We would memorize like 101 Dalmatians, that record, and put on plays for ourselves, the two of us, my sister and myself. I always got all the lead parts, and she always had the minor characters. I was made sure that I was Peter Pan, Captain Hook, and Wendy, and she got all the other roles. And we used to act out that kind of thing. That's as far as a fantasy got for me. But I always was great for just going out and climbing trees and swimming in creeks and just acting out sort of a tomboyish kind of life, I guess.
We also used to climb the trees, and we'd make our own play equipment, like swings, and we'd put a rope in a tree and tie it around a tire, and we'd swing in that. Now, we made our own play equipment, so to speak. My kids, of course, don't know anything about that. You know, they like to be entertained, television and all.
I had a strong example coming from my father about what a wonderful, life intelligent reading can lead to. And also I was developing a sense of ambition, of wanting to know more, of wanting to sort of branch out. And that, plus the fact that television was banned from my house, and never saw a television, really, except for sort of little sneaks when you're over at somebody's house for a party. Never was spoiled sort of by comic books or television or, this kind of stuff.
Hot Hero Sandwich. We'll be back after these messages. Shh. We now return to Hot Hero Sandwich.
Towards high school, when I started, I did the Fitzpatrick's, which was a series for CBS. And what happened was, towards high school, when I was, going to different schools, kids would know me from my face, an earlier knowing them or whatever, and they always would.
We now return to Hot Hero Sandwich.
How did you rebel? What did you do?
Well, I would sneak the car out. I mean, I don't know if that's rebelling. I was mischievous. I loved just being with my friends and being independent. And I remember being 15 years old, and I had taken driver's ed, but I didn't have my license. My parents had gone. And I had a girlfriend over spending the night. We put our pajamas on, and I sneaked the car out. We went driving around to the local hangout, which was Green's Hamburgers. And driving through the parking lot in our pajamas, out of the car. And I was just sneaking it back, and I was just sure. I was always trying to outwit my parents, thinking, I bet that they marked where the tires were to see, or looked at I was always waiting to get caught.
Right up the street, there was this bar called Little Joey's Bar. So what we did was, one time we hid in the bushes, and the back door opens up, and there's a long hallway and their pool table. So me and Chris standing there with about 6 eggs, and we just threw them all in there, right? So all the drunks came running out after us, and we ditched into the house. We should have ran to another house, but we ran to our house like dummies, right? And then we got a phone call saying that they were going to call the police and all this stuff. So we go, oh, God, what are we going to do? So we hopped in the bathtub and the shower and took a shower real quick, put on pajamas, and we were watching TV with the babysitter. Now, he knows what's going on. So next thing you know, we hear this knock at the door, and we're watching. I think it was about 9 o'clock. What was on? I don't remember. But the way they found out, they proved it was, they took me to the side. They go, what were you watching? And I said, Brady Bunch or whatever. And then they went over to Chris and said, well, what were you watching? And she said something else. Okay? then they went up to the babysitter and asked him what he was watching. And he told the police what he was watching while we were out. And he goes, well, do you guys have 3 TV sets? We go, no. You're under arrest. And we go, oh, my God. So they didn't cuff us or anything. They just, threw us in the car and took us down to the station and wrote a little, thing. And then my mom came, oh, boy. Then my mom had to come pick us up. Oh, that was bad.
Any kids who are having the problems where they feel an absolute lack of communication with their parents or something, you just got to understand is that anything you're going through, they're going through 10 times as badly because they're older and they're supposed to know better, They're supposed to have it figured out, and they don't. And they're under as much pressure as we, the kids, are. And it's just, you really got to be as easy on your parents as you would like them to be with you.
Hot Hero Sandwich will return after these messages.
I had mixed marriages and remarriages and a father, a mother, a stepmother, a stepfather, all of whom had been married at least twice and had kids by both marriages. My mother was 19 when she got married. My father was 24. Neither of them knew what the hell they were doing, and they made a mistake. They compounded the mistake by having me and my brother Benjamin, just sort of boom, boom, like that. And then they both got sensible. They split. My mother moved to Princeton, New Jersey, where she knew friends. My father went to, from New York, he went to Connecticut. And I, in a way, kind of grew up on the New Haven Railroad, sort of in between Old Saybrook and Trenton,
Ever since, I was younger, my mom was kind of interested in real estate and stuff, so I kind of grew up in a, you could say, not a regular, way. I didn't live in one house for 5 years or 10 years and then, go to all the schools. We kept, we'd buy one house and live in there for a year, and then she'd rent it out. We'd buy another one, and then she'd rent it out.
What's the feeling like, having all those moves and all those uprootings?
It was really hard because, you'd move to one house, you'd go to a new school. You'd meet, new friends, and then you'd move away. And what it came down to is I went to, 3 junior highs and 3 high schools, different ones. So that's, most kids will go to, 1 junior high and then continue through to that high school in the neighborhood, right? I was in 1, 2, 3 junior highs and 1, 2, 3 high schools. So it was pretty crazy.
Hot Hero Sandwich will return after these messages.
I was born just before the Depression, and so we went through those Depression years, and everybody had a hard time making ends meet. My father eventually bought his own truck and went into the trucking business, hauling lumber and logs and collecting scrap iron, selling that kind of thing. But in that job, he was in competition with the poor whites in the area. And as a result of that, being in competition, his life was threatened many times. Yes, I grew up not always knowing whether or not my father would return home after he went to work. There would be times when we would hear a car or a truck coming, and of course living in the country not on the main highway as we did, not too many cars came past our house. So when when we'd hear a car coming, we thought maybe this was the news, they were bringing the news that my father had been killed.
Oh, I used to have terrible nightmares when I was a kid. In fact, I had a recurring dream, and it was a dream where I was in a plowed field, and I was real small. And I was in a plowed, muddy field, and I remember it was like a field, and I could see it going off into the distance, and then there was like a farm over here and trees and a sky, and I was stuck in this muddy field, and a big tractor was coming over me, and I couldn't know, they didn't know I was there, and I was screaming. And I remember the tractor wheels would come over me, and that would be the end of the dream. And when I was a kid, I would wake up. I remember suddenly I would wake up in the living room. My parents would be there saying, "Tell us what it is, Pam." I'd be crying, and it was terrible. And I'd wake up from this dream, and then I wouldn't know what it was, and I could never tell them. I'd wake up finding myself saying, "You know what it is, you know what it is." And they say, "We don't. Tell us what it is. Tell us what it is." And I never knew. I was never in touch with it.
A moment happened that really changed my life, and I'd like to tell you about it. 8 weeks, we were finally coming into town. And the whole committee, meaning all my parents, wanted to be there. Intense dilemma, outbreak of asthma, allergies, sleepless nights, loss of 15 pounds. Oh dear, what do we do? And I spent most of the run in Toronto figuring out what am I going to do about this opening in New York. And I finally decided, damn it, this animosity, this feelings that, look, we can't talk to each other. You know, all the memories about the fact that when my father used to drive me back in his old beat-up Volkswagen from New York, he would stop on the edge of my mother's property but not go on it, you know. All those feelings I buried and said, now is the time for there to be a reconciliation, for all of us to get back together, and I gave them all tickets, right together, 5th row center, opening night on Broadway. Now, they were all there, it's opening night on Broadway, and I had absolutely zero concentration. Here was my big break in the theater. My big break. I'd worked for 12 years in the theater. Here's my opening night on Broadway. Every critic in the world is there because it's Katharine Hepburn's last play, really. I mean, she may do another one, but it's certainly her last play in years. And I couldn't think about my work. I couldn't think about my work for 1 second. And I went on and I bombed on opening night. I was phoning it in collect. I mean, I was not even there. The feet were doing the walking, but there was nobody home, because I couldn't stop thinking about my parents and everybody being together. And for that one moment, real life was more important than the theater. And what happened when we all went to Sardi's afterwards, and we were all upstairs in that room, and the terrible reviews came in, and I didn't give a damn because my family was all together again for a change, and everybody, all of us, all the brothers and sisters, and everybody around that table for one moment, and we made a family circle. We all linked hands around the table, and all the hatred was over. All the 22 years of hatred was over, and we were all back together again, and it's been really fine ever since. But I'm really glad that real life can win in the long run. It's more important in theater.
Hot Hero Sandwich. We'll be back after these messages. Shh. We now return to Hot Hero Sandwich.